Hi, Gary Stearman coming to you from the studios of Prophecy Watchers with a very good friend. You know who he is, and he comes here from time to time to share his wisdom with us. It's Avi Lipkin. Avi, welcome to Prophecy Watchers.
Love you guys.
Love you too. Now, when you come by, we learn things, the sort of behind-the-scenes news items that are connected with Israel and hence connected with Bible prophecy. And so go ahead and kind of fill us in on what's happening in Israel today, what's happening in your life, etc.
Okay, well, firstly, I wanted to say that I loved very much participating in the conference the last few days. I have to say it's within a week, all of this. And very emotional, very wonderful people came. I think it was sold out. I think it was totally indeed. Full. And my son participated also, CEO of Lipkin Tours, Aaron Lipkin. And I remember we said towards the end of the conference, I said, if something really important happens, you know, I'm in Dallas, but it's a 3-hour drive to come up here, and something happened. And it was the assassination and dismemberment of this Saudi dissident, Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi. And I hear now that there are very senior people in Washington who are saying all kinds of things about holding the Saudi regime accountable, punishing the Saudi regime. And even President Trump said that there will be severe consequences and punishment for those responsible for killing him in the consulate in Istanbul. Some reports were he was dismembered and taken out in suitcases. Some people say he was dismembered and dunked in acid, so there would be no remembrance or any evidence. Anyway, so I hear the news and have great respect for all those people, you know, who have been saying there has to be punishment and the Saudis have to be held accountable. But I started to think, when I think it's dangerous, you know, I told you this, when I think it's a problem. And I look back, because I have this elephant memory, and I think to myself about American policy in the past. And I hope that President Trump is going to be watching this, hearing about this. This is, I think, very important for America. We all want to make America great or greater. We don't want America to pay for erroneous decisions. I want to talk a little bit about the history of Iran. Now, today, Iran is the great enemy of the United States and Israel, because they've been saying since 1979, death to America, death to Israel. So America is faced, Israel is faced by, I would say, I take the liberty of saying an atomically powered enemy, stirring up trouble in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and of course, even in Israel, in Gaza, they're backed by the Iranians, Iraq. Now, just before 1979, Iran had a leader. It's true, he was a dictator, the Shah of Iran. He was a dictator. There is no democracy in Islam. There is none of this Republican and Democrat, you know, chit-chat about who's right and who's wrong. There, when you are the leader of an Islamic country, you are a dictator, because if you're not a dictator, you will fall from power probably and be killed. Mm-hmm. The Shah of Iran was America's best friend and Israel's best friend in the Islamic world. Yes, the Shah of Iran was a Muslim. He was a Shiite Muslim. And Iran developed, westernized. And when we say westernized, it means becoming more modern, but it also means becoming more pro-Christian.
Science, engineering, they were actually leaders in many ways.
The Shah did a remarkable job. He was the cornerstone of American policy in the Middle East during the Cold War. Actually, the Iranian nuclear project started under the Shah. In other words, Israel and the United States helped the Shah of Iran to develop a nuclear project. This is not something that Ayatollah Khomeini started. This is something that the Shah started. And America gets a president, a Democratic president by the name of Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter was shocked at the things he was hearing about the dictatorship of the Shah. And he and Zbigniew Brzezinski put together a plan not to support the Shah, but to bring him down. Because, you see, Americans cannot fathom the torture, the killing, the chopping up of people, which goes on in the Muslim world. And the Muslims do it to each other. Of course, we saw with ISIS, what ISIS was doing to Christians and Yazidis and others in the Caliphate. And ISIS was also chopping up Muslims. Anybody who was suspected of treason was chopped up, killed, chopped up, whatever. So President Jimmy Carter says the following. There's a man of God in Paris, in exile. He is Iranian. He is Ayatollah Khomeini. He's a religious leader. And he's a man of the people. And we've spoken to him. He's going to unite all of the anti-Shah democratic forces in Iran. And you know what? He's a man of God. And I, Jimmy Carter, I'm a man of God. So we can work together. Now, you know, I've been teaching on your programs for 25 years.
Yes.
That Allah is not exactly the same as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Allah is the moon god, the war god, and the sword god of ancient Mecca and Medina. So when President Jimmy Carter says this is a man of God, he should have said this is a man of a God, but not the God of the Jews and the Christians. Now, you know, I'm a very popular man in Switzerland. I have a 3-year jail sentence for saying Allah is the devil. And of course, I stand by that. And so if you are a man of the devil, you cannot say in the same breath that you're a man of God. And so this is what Jimmy Carter was saying. Jimmy Carter should have listened to my teachings. So the first thing that happens when Zbigniew Brzezinski and Jimmy Carter depose the Shah, or shall I say they do not back him to stay in power, is look what we got as a result. We got Ayatollah Khomeini, the fanatic Shiite regime, which suppressed all of the groups in Iran. The labor groups, the socialist groups, the democratic groups, the women's groups, suppressed all of them and imposed a fanatic Muslim regime, Shiite Muslim regime, on the people of Iran. And what I wanted to say to President Trump is we have to look at what is the outcome of an American decision regarding what happens with Khashoggi. And I talk about it indeed in my book, Islamic Rivalry. I talk about all the different forces at play where the Russians back the Iranians and the Shiites and the Americans and the Europeans back the Sunnis.
By the way, when did you write this book?
I just wrote this 3 years ago.
3 years ago. It's called Islamic Rivalry, ISIS and Iran fighting each other for the heart of Islam.
And chopping each other up in pieces.
And chopping each other up in pieces. This is very important to America in what way?
Well, you see, Americans are, I would say, one-dimensional. Jesus Christ has made Americans such loving, sweet people. You know, there's a saying, it takes a thief to know a thief. You guys are not thieves. You're not able to be thieves because you're one-dimensional. You have this lovey-dovey Bible way of thinking, and I would say so do I. It's just I live in the Middle East, and my wife comes from the Middle East, and so I've become a thief. I've been inoculated by my wife and by living in Israel 50 years, and I see that they go by different rules. Americans cannot fathom it. They can't comprehend how a human being can go ahead and chop another human being to pieces and then drop the body parts in acid. This is a horrible thing that took place in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Horrible thing. But this is the norm in the Islamic world.
Now, having laid that out as a basic premise, if you could talk to our president, if you could talk to the leaders of our country, what would you tell them? What do they vitally need to know today on the basis of what you're talking about?
Well, firstly, before I get to the bottom line, and I'm watching the time also because we're limited in time, America has an ally. Israel has an ally called Egypt. Egypt used to be our worst enemy. Egypt today is an ally. I don't know for how long, but the president of Egypt is was a general in the Egyptian army. His name is Al-Sisi. And Al-Sisi led the army in a coup d'etat to overthrow the Muslim Brotherhood. Who's Khashoggi, the one who was chopped up and killed? He was Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood is the Sunni equivalent of what happened in Iran. So the question is this: and we spoke about this many years,
yes,
about the oil and the steady oil prices and steady oil supplies. The royal family in Saudi Arabia is hated by 90% of the Saudis. They actually back Khashoggi. This is the beginning of a civil war, I believe, in Saudi Arabia, because the Muslim Brotherhood is waiting for the opportunity to annihilate the royal family. And today, you can get your oil from Saudi Arabia, or the world can get the oil. Tomorrow, it's not going to happen. Tomorrow, if the Muslim Brotherhood takes over, they're going to blow up the oil wells. Iran doesn't want to sell oil to the countries that are with America because Iran wants to destroy America. Now, al-Sisi, after 1 year of President Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood president, leads a coup d'etat, imprisons Morsi, who is guilty of many crimes, and the Muslim Brotherhood is put in jail. Muslim Brotherhood is made illegal in Egypt. Abdel Nasser did it in the 50s and 60s. You remember Sadat, who made peace with Israel. He tried to cut a bargain with the Muslim Brotherhood. They killed him. You cannot do business with the Muslim Brotherhood. They are a threat to Egypt. And so the United States has to think about what is best for America's interests. Is it better to have the King of Saudi Arabia and the royal family, which I think inevitably are also doomed? Or is it better to have the Muslim Brotherhood, who will do to Saudi Arabia what the Shiites did in Iran and what they tried to do in Egypt with Morsi? America's best interests will be served by keeping the royal family in power. And I would say, President Trump is right in condemning this horrible behavior. But you have to understand something. This is normal behavior in the Muslim world. And, President George W. Bush, I have a lot of respect for George W. Bush, but he said something very wrong. He said that the war in Iraq in 2003 was about overthrowing Saddam Hussein, bringing democracy to Iraq. You know what the Saudis said? Democracy in the Middle East over our dead bodies.
Wow.
In other words, there is no such thing as democracy in Islam. And so if you have al-Sisi, who is a dictator, if you have all these leaders, the king of Saudi Arabia or his son, Mohammed bin Salman, is a dictator. I don't know if he gave the orders to kill Khashoggi, but the point is, this is an internal matter of the Islamic world which America cannot get involved in. This is something, with all the pain I say it, because I know a lot of very good Republicans and Democrats are saying there should be an investigation and there should be punishment. What comes after the Saudi family? The Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood will be anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, anti-Western. And if you're talking about stable oil prices and steady oil supplies, leave things alone. That's my message to President Trump.
And very clearly stated, I might add. You came right down to the point. Who are our most dependable allies in that region? And obviously, it would be the people who've been in power now for how long?
Since T.E. Lawrence.
Yes. So we really find ourselves now at a junction, a little break point in history.
Yes, I would say again, there are a lot of plans regarding Saudi Arabia. We spoke about it before, a railroad that would go through Jordan with a link to Israel.
Yes.
So that products could be shipped through Haifa to Jordan and then down to Saudi Arabia and vice versa. The debate is, will the Japanese build the railway or will the Chinese build the railway? And there's so much potential development that could take place if we had good relations with all our neighbors. I don't know. I mean, I'm an optimist. I think sometimes we have a Minister of Transport, Israel Katz, who believes we can do it with the Saudis. I think that inherently there's a problem, and I think that eventually the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia faces very serious existential problems with the Muslim Brotherhood.
So the Khashoggi event then has presented us with a go, no-go decision.
We have to go with what's important for Western survival. And that is, at this point, we have to keep the Saudi royal family in power.
Before we leave today, I want to give Avi an opportunity to talk about the Bible Bloc party in Israel. We've got a minute or two left here. And tell us about the progress of your political party in Israel.
Well, I'm proud to say that on May 13th, our party was officially recognized by the Israeli government. We are now going to have our first party Congress, God willing, either in November, early December. This has to be done as quickly as possible. I was here trying to raise monies to pay for the hall and other things. We really don't run on any kind of a budget. But God is remarkable with miracles. The party will have its conference. We will start campaigning. And if God wants us in the Knesset in these next elections facing us, which could be any time in 2019, we will be in the Knesset. If not, we continue working very pedantically for the next elections in 3-4 years. A lot of Christians are saying, "No, we're going to pray for you. You're going to be in the next Knesset." I say, "Okay, I'm ready for that. If not, then I love you guys enough to come back every so often to Oklahoma City."
Well, Avi, you're always in our prayers.
Thank you.
What can I say?
I can feel it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Avi Lipkin, always thinking, always moving from one place to another, always active, doesn't let any grass grow under his feet. And we're going to be visiting with him again in just a day or two. So stay with us right here at Prophecy Watchers. I'm Gary Stearman. We are watching. You keep watching too. Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter, or follow us at facebook.com/prophecywatchers. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.